Hello friends, welcome back. Every time I talk about needs and values in a lecture or a seminar, there are always people who would say that, but I know very clearly I need this or I need that and this is very important for me. So for me, the problem is not that I don't know. The problem is I know what exactly I want and yet something stops me. Friends, today I am going to share with you some insights about our worst enemy on the journey of creating happiness, creating a happy life. This worst enemy is the one which, in spite of knowing our needs and values and desires, it does not let us achieve them or to do something about them. You remember in the first and the second days, probably second and the third days, I was talking about that majority of our unhappiness comes from not fulfilled needs, unfulfilled needs. So if we fulfill them, the reason for unhappiness will go away and happiness will be there. So the question is, yes, it's true that if we fulfill these needs, if we do something about them, unhappiness will go away. But why on earth so many people who are so clear about their needs do not do anything about those needs or values or desires? That one reason, that biggest enemy that I am talking about, I think you know what I am going to talk about, is fear. That's right. It shouldn't be a surprise that the last topic for personal dimension I am keeping fear, because in spite of all the knowledge people have, like a lot of people know, people know a lot of stuff, they know so many techniques and they know their needs and values, and still something stops them. And we all know what something stops us, that is fear. And why do I say fear is our greatest enemy? That is because, when you see an enemy, you know enemy as an enemy, I don't think it is a great enemy, because you know this is enemy. You know this will harm me. But when someone comes to you as a friend, and not as a friend, but as the best, as the greatest friend who is trying to save you from most horrible situations, like a person who poses as your best friend, but in reality is harming you, I would call that person your greatest enemy. And that is exactly what fear does to us. Fear, the reason why fear stops most of us is because fear poses as our friend. Fear convinces us that I am your friend, listen to me. If you do this, if you go after this, if you try to fulfill this need, something horrible will happen and your life will be a mess. Don't do this thing. We've seen this happening all the time. You are stuck in a job you no longer enjoy. Yes, the job is giving you money, a security, but you know deep down that you are not growing. You don't feel this job is a part of your life's purpose and you want to do something different. But if you go for that, you will lose the security that this job offers you. You know very well, you also are very clear in your priorities. You know that security is important, but this expansion, this finding and working with your passion is much more important to you than the security this job offers. And yet, you don't take action on that. I know it may not be the same scenario about job for everyone else, but it's about different things. For some people it's more like in the personal life. Like I know many couples, they are very clear this marriage is not going anywhere. They are not expanding being together. Not because the other person is bad but because the other person is not willing to grow with you. You are willing to walk ahead and you are willing to grow in your life, but the other person does not want to take the right steps with you, and so you know that there is no juice left in this marriage. And yet I know couples who are so sure deep down, and yet they don't take the action. They don't talk to their partner that maybe we should do something to grow, or we should go different ways. In any ways, try to resolve the situation. What I'm trying to say is that when we know very clearly what we need, what we want, and when it is also an important priority for us, and yet we don't do anything to deal with it or to resolve the situation, it is always a fear which stops us from doing that. Now, let me explain exactly how does this fear operates, how does this fear poses as your best friend and tries to convince you that if you do this, this is bad for you. Let's see how fear does that. So, imagine the same scenario, this example which I talked about, a man who is stuck in a job which he doesn't like anymore and he wants to start something else. Imagine you are in this same scenario. Now, how fear would convince you in that scenario to stay in the current job? You see, whenever you think about dropping this job and starting something of your own, which is based on your passion, which is based on your real talent, but there is no guarantee of the income, the regular income that you are getting from the job. So how would fear convince you not to go for your passion but instead to stay stuck in this job? What fear will do is basically it will try to give you the worst case scenarios. It will try to project the worst possible scenarios if you take this step, and that's okay. I mean, even worst case scenarios are not always bad. The problem is when you think about them, when you think about those worst case scenarios. For example, okay, I'm leaving the job, then I will not have money to pay my rent, and you see a picture of yourself sitting in your apartment trying to think, where will I pay my bills, because I have so many loans on my head, there is no regular income. Now that image that you have of yourself, that image conjures up lots of discomfortable feelings. Basically, what fear tries to protect you is not the situation itself, but the discomfortable feelings that you might have to go through from. Let me repeat this once again. Fear is not helping you to avoid the situation. Fear is simply helping you to avoid the discomfortable feelings that are associated with that situation. What is the difference between people who are okay with extreme sports and like for example para jumping, like jumping with parachutes, or bungee jumping, or let's say even skiing? What is the difference between people who are quite comfortable doing that and people who are afraid and don't do that? So I know, I mean, we have got a special word to describe that feeling. We would simply say that, oh, the people who do that, they are courageous, and the people who don't do that, they don't have the courage to do that. But then what is courage? Courage is not absence of fear. Absolutely not. Courage is not absence of fear. What courage is I am okay with the discomfort that comes by going through the situation, and in spite of that discomfort, I will do. So courage, if I can sum up in one sentence, courage is not absence of fear. Courage is taking action in spite of fear. right? Not absence, but in spite of fear. Okay, so coming back to our example of people who do extreme sports and people who don't do extreme sport. See, whether you are courageous enough to go for extreme sports or you are not courageous enough, in any scenario, if you fall down, for example, you are skiing and if you slip and if you hit your, if you hurt your leg, the pain, whether you are courageous or not courageous, is going to be the same, right? But then there is one thing that is, there is one difference between these two kinds of people. The people who are courageous, the people whom we call courageous, are the people who somehow feel that it is okay, it is possible I might fall down, it is possible I might get hurt, but then it's okay. It's worthy to get hurt. Sometimes I am okay to go through the pain of getting hurt, but for me, going through this thrilling experience of skiing or jumping is much more important. So the one who is courageous is fine with the discomfort of the worst case scenario, like if I fall down or if I get hurt, is okay for the pain. The person who is not courageous, whom we call not courageous, there is not much difference between this guy and the other guy. The one who is not courageous simply is trying to avoid the discomfort of a possible pain that might come from being hurt. So basically, he is not trying to avoid skiing itself or jumping itself. He is trying to avoid the possible pain that might come from that. Now, do you see the point? Fear convinces you to stop doing something, not because that something is bad, but because you might have to go through a very uncomfortable or unpleasant feeling. What if you become comfortable with this unpleasantness and discomfort? That is the moment, again I will say fear cannot stop you once you come to this realization. Now, in the real world, you see, fear might take so many different forms. Fear of rejection, for example, you are not doing something because you fear someone will reject you. So what is it that you really fear? Do you really fear, like, is there even any point to fear that if you go and ask someone something and they say no? There is no point. We are not afraid of the word no. We are afraid of the feelings that happen in our energy field of our body at the moment when someone says no. What we are trying to avoid is not the sound of no, but the ripples of that no that happen in our energy body in form of some kind of emotion, or it could be sadness, or it could be any other form of unhappiness. The point is, fear is not trying to save you from what happens out there in the world. Fear is simply trying to save you from what happens in here in your energy body. And once you realize this, that basically fear is your protection mechanism, your defense mechanism, which is trying to save you from discomfortable feelings, it is possible to go beyond that. And at this point, I also would like to add one more thing. The ability of a person to achieve things outside and the ability of a person to create happiness inside, both of these are directly proportional to the ability of a person to digest discomfort. That's true. You see, people who are quite comfortable taking rejections, taking no, losing a particular game, or being rejected by the world in any other forms, they have much more chance to make achievements also in the outer world and create this ecology of happiness inside also. The simple reason is, when your ability to digest discomfort, when your ability to digest rejections and failures is bigger, fear cannot stop you from trying again and again until you you are able to do what really needs to be done. So if I can summarize the whole thing, basically fear is a misunderstanding. The fear that does not let you do things which you know deep in your heart must be done. That kind of a fear is some kind of a misunderstanding. The situation is like this. Imagine, let's say there is a lady who is afraid of driving in the night because it's dark, and we all have heard stories. There are some people who have a rule that never drive in darkness just to keep themselves safe. Now that's okay, that's their personal problem. But let's say there is this lady who is afraid of driving in the night. Now one day it's raining, it's raining heavily, and the husband is out of the town. She's alone with her only daughter, and the daughter has got very high temperature. Now there is no medicine at home, and it is important that this woman, the daughter, must get the medicine to to lower the temperature, or else it could be more complicated next morning. So the only possibility is that the lady goes out to the shop and gets some medicine. Now the shop is 2 kilometers away from the home. Now it's possible she could have gone walking to that place, but it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's raining heavily. So the only possibility in this scenario is that she should take her car and go. Now in this scenario, don't you think that most mothers, most normal mothers, they would not, even though there is discomfort, but they will still go out and get that medicine because deep down in their heart they know that it is so important. And when you know it is so important, you are willing to go through the discomfort of the process of doing something which you are normally afraid of. You see, her fear of driving in the night was simply that something because of the less visibilities, she might get into some accident, and there is this fear. So this fear wants to protect her. But when the situation rises, when the situation is such that there is no other option, she is willing to go through the discomfort, and then she does that. She goes out to the store, gets the medicine, gives to the daughter. And in this case, the reason she was able to do something which she would normally not do is because something, the need of the daughters, the need to protect the daughter, gave her the willingness to go through the discomfort of her own fears. So this is the key. Don't run away from discomfort. You don't have to run away from the uncomfortable feelings, where we have already covered this about the topic of uncomfortable feelings in past few days, that the uncomfortable feelings happen, they have a location. The location is your body, the location is your energy body. So just let whatever happens in that place, in your energy body, happen. Allow it, go through the discomfort, and still do it. The only way to conquer fear is feel the fear and do it anyway. Your task for today is on the day 2 and day 3, we had this, we worked out with some our needs, right? Needs and values, and I would like you to go back to the same worksheet where we worked with needs and values and figure out that, okay, this is a particular need of mine which is not met. Now remember, if you know you have a need, and if you know the need is not met, or you have not dealt, there is always, the culprit is always one or another kind of fear. So please go back to the sheet, identify the needs which you know you have not met, and identify what are the specific fears that you have, and then try to see what I was talking about in your operating in your own life. Try to really see it. Don't just trust me, don't believe me, check it out with your own self. That is my fear really the fear of actual things happening out there, or the feelings that I will feel when those things are happening out of there. Like fear is trying to protect me from really those things, or what I will experience because of those things. And you will notice that fear is not trying to stop you from the consequences itself. I mean, at least not the outer consequences. Fear is trying to protect you from the discomfort you will need to go through because of those consequences. So at least when you have this clarity, I would say there is some kind of diffusion of fear. Half of it will be dissolved, and eventually, I say to you, there is no solution. Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's the only solution. Thank you very much. Have a great day.